We can start now. I'll just begin with an introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Samia Yusuf Ayad. I'm an internal communications manager at Fatima Al-Fahri Open University. Today's guest is Mr. Anmol Modi. He's an international trade and investment advisor with a strong experience in working with Indian small and medium enterprises. Moreover, he was also critical in fostering international trade for a number of state governments in India in sectors such as agro and food processing, engineering products, ship designing, construction materials and chemicals, among many others. Likewise, he's also led business delegations to countries such as Bahrain, Nepal, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Sri Lanka, and the United Arab Emirates. Recently, he's focusing on increasing the trade and investment between India and the African countries by motivating the young generations of India to embark on the journey of international business, along with undertaking several training sessions for students and industry professionals. Thus, today, his topic will be India, a land of opportunity for business, which I'm sure will be a very insightful lecture. Any questions can be asked in the Q&A session after the lecture is over. And now I'll pass the mic over to our guest. Mr. Modi, you may begin when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Sami, for your humble introduction. And I'm very pleased to be here addressing on behalf of the Fatima Al-Fahri Open University. Talking about today's session, so it is about India overall, and I'm sure many of you would have visited India, would have read about India, and have done business with India. So it won't be much of a task for me, though, as you all know about India, but I'll be sharing some interesting facts about India, which some of you might not be knowing. So again, very good evening to all, and hope you and your loved ones are doing well. So before starting my presentation, I would like to show you a small glimpse of India. And so you get to know what India is. So yeah, I'll just share my screen. The video was recorded by Incredible India in partnership with the National Geographic Channel, and which gave you a glimpse about what is India. And so India is basically a very beautiful country, and it has all the landforms, and it has various geographies. So it starts from mountains to rivers, deserts, plateaus, greenlands, many of the sea shores. So it's a very diverse geography, and that is the reason why India has been flourishing into various number of industries, into various number of sectors, and that we'll be seeing in the presentation. Right. So welcome to this session again to all of you who are listening. And today's session is co-powered by the Fatima Al-Fahri Open University. And so the topic is India, a land of opportunity for business. Now, these are the topics of discussion, what we'll be doing across today. So the first thing which I showed you is about India, video about India, a very mesmerizing video which was being shot. The second one is why India. So we'll be looking at certain very pinpointed things which are there in India, and which are the growth drivers in India, then the opportunities in India, and finally we'll be having the Q&A session. So without wasting much time, let me jump into the India unlimited opportunities. So now every box in this slide is an opportunity for all of you to do business in India or to grow as a business in India if you're already doing business in India. So the first box suggests that it is the fastest growing major economy. It will be the fastest growing major economy by 2023-24. It has the third largest economy by purchasing power parity just after US and China. It has 1.3 billion population. Now, just imagine how much the India is. 1.3 billion population is a huge market for any of the industry, right? The e-commerce industry has recently seen a large surge due to the lockdown and the COVID, where everything, right from vegetable to medicine, everything has shifted to e-commerce. So the e-commerce industry is expected to reach $200 billion by 2026. The median age of in India will be 29 years, making it the youngest nation by 2025. Now, what we are seeing across the globe is that the population, the median age population of many of the countries like Japan are changing towards more. The population is becoming more aged, but while India is becoming the youngest nation, so the opportunity which the young generation gives to every business is humongous. The consumer market is to reach $3.6 trillion by 2025. India has the second largest road network pertaining to about 100,000 kilometers of just the national highways. And as we speak of now, there are number of road projects which are happening across India. 99% literacy has been targeted by 2025, where we stand today at about 78 to 80%. The broadband subscribers are the second largest in the world just after China. So India has 757.6 million broadband subscribers as of 31st January 2021. So when broadband subscribers increases, of course, there is a huge demand in the e-commerce industry because they both are interconnected. 500 million urban population to be developed in India by 2025. India has a third largest railway network, which is very strong, which runs across north to south, east to west, northeast to southeast, northwest to southwest, in every corner of India. So the railway network is very strong, and that is primarily used for bulk or package movements or bulk good movements. 32 million middle class is as of 2020, which was there, and which is expected to be 150 million is to be added in the middle class by 2025. So now when a middle class of a country increases, the spending power of that country increases. Correct. Then Walmart invested US dollar 16 billion in Flipkart, and the valuation they gave is about 222 billion. So now when a global company like Walmart had invested into Flipkart a few years ago, they would have seen certain potential in India. And that potential, what they had seen is all of these boxes. They had seen that it has one of the youngest nation it is going to be. It has the largest population. So a company like Walmart, which is an international company, has invested in a startup called Flipkart, for those of you who don't know. Right. So by 2022, 175 gigawatt of renewable energy expansion plan is under the process. Then the FDI inflow was the highest in the last year, 2020-21, despite of the COVID situation, which amounted to $67.54 billion. So this is a very good sign for India that despite all the crises which are happening around the world, companies around the world are investing into India for businesses because they are seeing the opportunity. And what opportunity they are seeing in which of the sectors that we'll be looking at in the subsequent slides. So India is the third largest armed forces and the fourth largest defense expenditure in the world. So the spending power is quite more. Now, what are the growth or the key drivers of the new India? Right. So the roads, as we mentioned, it's 1,000 kilometers of national highways. The power in the power sector, the total energy capacity of India is 356 gigawatt, and it is rising. As we speak of now, there are 80 ports which are being under construction and which are being increased in their connectivity. The aviation sector is humongous with 464 airports and airstrips. there are a new project which is started by the government of India back in 2014 called the Smart Cities. And thereafter, there is a Smart Village initiative which is also being started. Now, construction sector is also one of the key drivers with 100 million houses. And the auto sector is booming at a very large pace with 10.9 compound annual growth rate for last 10 years. A very interesting figure over here. India is the largest producer of cotton in the world with 6,106 million kgs, which is 6.1 million tons of cotton, which is produced each year. And India is the largest dairy producer in the world. Now, let me give you an example. One of the recent dairy, the largest dairy, which has been set up in Oman, the entire training of the people of that dairy had taken place in India in the Amul dairy. That Amul dairy is based in Anand city of Gujarat, and which is one of the largest dairy in India. So a lot of technology and training has been done in India in terms of the food processing sector, because that is where our core competency lies. The mining sector is another very important sector, amounting about 82 billion mining market by 2025, and we have a lot of minerals and ores and petroleum refining which is taking place in India. Now, jumping on to our primary sectors, and what I'll be showing you here is some of the interesting facts and the reasons for growth. So now it is upon you how you identify these various sectors and how you inculcate them into your business plan of doing business with India. Now, agriculture is the primary sector in India, and India is the largest producer of sugar in the world. India is also the largest producer of all the spices, pulses, milk, tea, cashew, and jute. Right. India is the second largest producer of bamboo in the world. Now, bamboo is becoming a very interesting commodity these days, because a lot of countries are shifting towards sustainable building material, sustainable construction, where bamboo is used in place of in place of many plastic products, as well as it has been replacing in many of the packaging as well. So India, being the second largest producer of bamboo, gives a good highlight on the map of the world. India is the second largest producer of fruits and vegetables, that is the horticulture, because of our varied climatic conditions all across the country. Also, because of the land which we have, the type of soil which we have, it gives India a good strength in producing fruits and vegetables. And for that matter, our fruits and vegetables are exported from India to the other side of the world, which is the US as well, through the through the air route. India accounts for 21% of the total coconut production of the world. Now, that's very amazing figure, because coconut is one of the commodity of which every part of coconut can be used. After this lecture, you can search that what all parts of the coconut can be used on the Google, and you will be seeing and you will be surprised that even the fiber, the outside covering of the coconut, can be used in a number of ways. So India is 21% share in that. India is the second largest producer of wheat in the world, and we supply wheat to all over the world. Now, what are the reasons for growth of this agricultural food processing sector in India? There's a robust demand which is seen, which is rise in the population and income, competitive advantage, availability of land, and diverse climatic conditions, which I mentioned. Policy support. So a lot of credit facilities have been provided by the government of India to the farmers in order to produce the grains, the fruits, the vegetables, and everything. And there's an increasing supply and logistics support, which has been increasing for about a decade or so now, where there has been a warehousing and cold storage facilities provided into each of the state. So the next slide, what I'll be showing you over here is that these are the opportunities. These are the cold chains which have been placed in each of the states of India, and they are capable of storing a number of food commodities ranging from fruits and vegetables, meat, dairy, marine, ready-to-eat foods, multi-commodity, etc. So the logistics and the supply chain is a very important aspect when we talk about the agriculture and the food processing sector, where India is making huge strides. Talking about the second sector, which is the automobile and the automobile components. Now, there is a lot of buzz around the market regarding the electric vehicles and advent of the new electric policy around the world into many countries. But when we speak of now today, there are not many countries which have the relevant infrastructure for the automobile and automobile components. And for that matter, India is also the same. India does not have much of the infrastructure for the electric vehicles, but into the diesel powered or the gasoline powered automobile and automotive component sector, India has a very large share. As you can see, India is the largest producer of tractor in the world. So most of the African countries are importing tractors from India. Either it can be a new tractors or refurbished tractors. India has a very large hold over that. Now, the reason for this is tractors is something which supplements agriculture, and India is an agricultural land. So that is why there has been a good production of tractors in India, making it the largest producer in the world. India is the largest two-wheeler and three-wheeler manufacturer. Two-wheeler are the motorcycles and the mopeds, and three-wheelers are the auto rickshaws. Many of companies of India, like the Atul Motors, they have been one of the largest supplier of three-wheelers to many parts of the world, including Africa and other developing nations. India is the second largest bus manufacturer. You would be surprised by this because what we see around is that you might be seeing Volvo or Scania, but India produces the second largest bus in the world. India is the third largest heavy truck manufacturer and the fourth largest car manufacturer. So we have a number of facilities which are governed by the domestic players as well as international players, which we'll be seeing in the next slide. And all of these components are making the auto components industries, which is the ancillary industry to the automobile industry, very strong. Now, when the automobile industry, which is a core industry, flourishes, there is always a need for auto components, right from clutch plates to brake pads and all the other things which follows in an automobile. So that is why India has also emerged as an auto components hub. And what are the reasons for the growth? That the vehicle penetration is expected to reach 72 vehicles per 1,000 people by 2025. India has close proximity to the global prominent automobile markets like Europe and Middle East, where India is exporting a huge amount of automobile components, automobiles as well. Cost competitiveness is a very huge factor when we talk about automobiles, where Indian automotive components are produced at 15% lower cost than any of the developed countries. That brings India to a good stage. And R&D hub, India is going to be the R&D hub, and it is currently, and it accounts for 40% share in the global R&D in the automobile sector. Now, this is what I was talking about, the automobile clusters. Now, what you see over here is that there are many of international brands like what you see Ford, we have General Motors, which was there, Volkswagen, Volvo, Scania, Toyota, uh, and BMW. So we had a large number of international companies as well as domestic companies which have made a very strong presence in India. And when these all industries flourish, the automobile industry, automobile components industry also has to flourish because they have to support the manufacturing industry and the after sales service industry as well. Of talking about the third sector, which is the chemicals. Now, India is the third largest polymer consumer in the world because we use these polymers to create a number of other products. And India's chemical industry has 80,000 commercial products, which includes bulk chemicals, agrochemicals, fertilizers, and specialty chemicals, and all sort of chemicals. So we have 80,000 commercial products. The market is very competitive. You get the best price for any of the product you want in the world. Fourth largest producer of India is the fourth largest producer of agrochemicals in the world. Now, the reason is again drawn from the agricultural sector because India is an agricultural country, and that is why it has to be supplemented by the agrochemicals. It is the sixth largest producer of chemicals in the world, and 16% production of the dye in the entire world happens in India. So the dye which are used in textile industry, 16% of the dyes are formed in just India. So you can see that approximately one fifth of the total production of the dye in the world which has been used India has 1/5% share, one-fifth fraction of the share. Now, what are the reasons for the growth? So the rise in the demand, which is shift in the production of major industries like food, home care, personal care towards the South Asia. The healthy living lifestyles of the people, which has been adopted in India recently, and shift from China. There were laws which have been passed in China over a couple of years ago, shutting down about 40,000 companies in China because of the environmental regulations. So a lot of demand has been shifted from China to India, boosting the chemicals sector, and government support through the production link incentive scheme, which is there. Now, talking about the healthcare and the medical device sector, this has been the talk of the hour because of the pandemic which is going on, and India has made huge strides into this particular segment. India was a net importer of PPE kits till 2020 March, and now India is the second largest PPE kits manufacturer in the world, producing about 10 lakh kits per day. So that is a huge progress which India has made into the healthcare and medical sector. India's National Health Protection System, which is termed as NHPS, is the world's largest government-funded healthcare program where people are given insurances. The citizens of India are given insurances. So there is a lot of spending which is done by the government on this sector. And healthcare has become the largest sector in India in terms of revenue and employment in last 1 year. And India is the fourth largest market of medical devices in Asia. This is a very interesting fact. So the India becoming largest market for medical devices. So it is importing a lot of medical devices, but now because there is a lot of demand in India, a lot of companies have also started to get the technology and then start the manufacturing in India. So, what are the reasons for growth? The demographics which has changed, the rising health awareness, rising income, life expectancy, which is going to be about 70 years. And so, a lot of healthcare facilities have been required. India is one of the largest pool of healthcare providers, including doctors and medical staff. So, it is number of skilled laborers and skilled manpower. And India exports, or I would say supplies, healthcare providers like nurses and medical staff to many of the countries in the world for their own healthcare systems. The medical devices sector is a nascent sector in India. India imports 90% of the sophisticated medical devices. So all the MRI machines and the X-ray machines in India are majorly been imported. So the sector is very nascent, and people, the manufacturers and all the foreign companies are also eyeing India to set up their manufacturing in India itself and then cater to the Indian markets rather than supplying things from their parent nation. And India has been forming 4 exclusive medical devices park, so which will also boost the demand for the medical devices in India. Now, these are the certain manufacturing clusters for medical devices. Now, a lot of medical devices are produced in India, which includes the pharmaceuticals and insulin pens and small components, which are a critical part of the medical devices, are manufactured in India by the domestic companies, as well as some of the international companies are also operating out of India. Now, talking about the IT and the business process management industry, this industry has seen a substantial growth all over the world in past 1 decade, with strides in the 4G industry and internet becoming one of the core aspect of it. Now, India is the number 1 sourcing destination of IT BPM in the world. Companies across the developed countries have their sourcing in India. India has about 55% market share in the global IT BPM market. So about 50% of the market share in this industry is held by India. It is, as I mentioned, India has the second largest internet subscribers in the world. IT is the largest employer in the private sector. Yeah. So IT, after the COVID also, when the pandemic started, IT has seen a humongous boost And these are the reasons of the growth, because the nationwide lockdown forced all companies to adopt work from home policy. And that is why they had to have the support of IT in one way or the other. Let's take a very simple example. My vegetable vendor, which used to come to my house every day with vegetables, now he developed an app. He said that you put your order on the app, and then I will deliver the products to you at your home. You don't have to come down. This is a very basic thing which they have done, right? The cost advantage. India has 3 to 4 times more cost effective than developed markets like USA. So majority of the companies which are operating out of the US in the IT sector, they have some or the other projects which are running out of India because it saves a lot of cost for them. The Digital India campaign, which has been started by the government of India, and it has an investment about $20 billion, which means that it is going to make mobile connectivity necessary for all of the people. And that is why the IT sector is on a large growth. The artificial intelligence, IoT, ML, these are some of the buzzwords which are happening around the world today. And India is not lagging behind that. And a lot of companies are operating out of it. Talking about the global footprint, IT industries have delivery centers across the world. Very simple example. One of the companies in India, which I know, which is based in Goa, they have an office in Canada, and in Canada they have offices across 3 to 4 different cities, because they said that, okay, my clients are based in Canada. I cannot always coordinate with them over a Zoom call. So I need to have offices over there, get the demand from there, and supply over there itself. So the domestic IT companies of India are also expanding across the world, and diversified portfolios. So IT companies of India have expertise in a lot of industries ranging from BFSI, retail, telecom, banking sector, and whatnot. Yeah, into the cybersecurity and everything. So these are some of the IT BPM sectors, what you see on the top left. A lot of international companies like Accenture, Capgemini, HCL, IBM, they are operating out of India. And there are also domestic companies which are there, like the Tata Consultancy Service, the Tech Mahindra, which have Tata Consultancy Services, an Indian-based company, which is one of the largest company in the IT sector all around the world now, which is termed as an MNC. But the parent company of TCS is Tata, which is an Indian-based company. Now, the software parks, what you see on the bottom right, you see that the entire map of India is basically green. So so basically not a single place is left in this map where software parks are not there. Even a small city in India, they will have a large number of software companies, and they are very competent as well. I'm not saying that they are a large number of companies and they are not competent, but they are competent software companies across India, which have been working for international clients as well as domestic clients. Now, talking about the pharmaceutical sector, which is also very buzz in the current market, and India is one of the largest producer of vaccine in the world. India is the largest manufacturer and exporter of generic medicines with 20% share in the global market. So almost 1/5 of the global markets of generic medicines is held by India, which is a very huge thing. India is a source of 60,000 generic brands. You can just imagine 60,000 generic brands of medicines are there across 500 APIs. And India is the third largest API manufacturer in the world. Of course, 500 APIs is not a is not something which is less. So a lot of APIs have been exported to the US, to the Europe, and to the Africa, and all the other developed countries in the east of India as well. So India houses about 3,000 pharma companies, which includes domestic as well as the international brands. And there are about 10,500 manufacturing units. You can just imagine the amount of pharmaceuticals and the range of pharmaceuticals which is produced in India. And that is why India holds a very important position in the world in terms of the pharmaceutical sector. When there was a crisis of COVID, which had happened in the US in the start of the crisis last year. India had supplied a lot of pharmaceuticals supply to the to the US, because India was competent in producing so much of pharmaceuticals for the treatment. The cost advantage is one of the reasons for the growth of this pharmaceutical sector, because it is one third the cost of production in the USA, 33% cheaper. A lot of medical tourism is happening in India. Now, when we talk about the medical tourism, a lot of NRIs, that are non-resident Indians, as well as a lot of foreign people, foreign residents. I know a lot of them, they visit India for their treatments, especially for the dentistry treatment, dermatologist treatments, because the treatments are very competent in India, as well as they are not as expensive as in their home country. The domestic demand is also rising because of the economic conditions are increasing and awareness in the unexplored sectors like in the rural India. So pharmaceutical sector is on the rise, and infrastructure facilities which have been provided. So availability of the highest US FDA approved plants outside the US. India is the only location in the entire world which has highest number of US FDA approved plants. So whatever production which happens in India, a large chunk of it is exported to the US and other developed markets. Now, these are some of the pharmaceutical clusters which are there in India, with R&D facilities, with bulk drug cluster and emerging bulk drug culture. So these are some of the regions where we see that a lot of manufacturing happens in the west and in the east part of India, in the west, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and in the east it happens in the Andhra Pradesh, Telangana region more prominently. Now, talking about the retail and e-commerce sector, now this is the sector which has been rising slowly but steadily, and the e-commerce sector purposely has been rising to a large extent due to the pandemic, which has been stuck to the entire world. And India is ranked 2 in the Global Development Index of Retail. India is Asia's third largest retail market, just after China and Japan. India is the 4th largest retail market in the world after US, China, and Japan. The reason why retail market is so important in India, because it has a population of 1.3 billion people. So retail is something which is unavoidable in all the cases. It can be in FMCG, clothing, and all the other sectors which fall under the retail. And e-commerce has accounted for half of the smartphone sale in India and 1/5 of the apparel sales in India over past just 1 year. So if 100 smartphones were sold last year, 50 of them were bought through e-commerce site, through Amazon or Flipkart or all the other e-commerce sites which are there. So people have shifted towards e-commerce, and what the example which I gave you, my simple vegetable vendor has also shifted to e-commerce in a way that he has developed an app, and he asked me to pay on his app and order through his app. So that is how retail is changing. The reasons for the growth are surge in the income. 3 times increase in the individual income has been seen over a decade in India. Young millennial population, as we had mentioned, that India is becoming the youngest country in the world with 29 years of the median age. Innovation in finance. So there is easy access to finance given to by banks and NBFCs to e-commerce and retail stores. So they have a lot of funding which is happening, and there's a lot of innovation which is happening into the so-called retail and the e-commerce side. A lot of international companies, new startups of new international startups are also having their operations in India, and they are probably not having a full operations, but they are also collaborating with existing Indian companies in order to start their market presence in India. Closing the rural-urban gap, which is a very important thing, that the per capita expenditure of rural will be surpassing the urban per capita income by 0.8 times. Now, this is a very interesting fact, because the urban is, of course, the largest consumer into the retail sector, but the rural is not lagging behind. A technology boom with 650 million smartphones, which are there in India as we speak of now. So 650 million smartphones, 650 million users. They can be having just one app. And for example, it's a Flipkart. They are having Flipkart app. So their Flipkart has approximately 650 million people which are using Flipkart. Increase in the internet penetration, which is 50% population has access to internet in India as of now, and this figure is rising tremendously. When people have internet access, they will be shopping online. You cannot stop them because the companies which are e-commerce companies have made it compulsion that you have to shop. You cannot just keep our app. They have such advertising campaigns. Online spending, so 350 million online buyers projected compared to 90 million currently. So currently there are 90 million buyers, and it is projected that there will be 350 million buyers by 2025. That is 4 years from now. So you can see the amount of stride which will be happening into the online spending. So this is one of the key sectors. The last sector what we'll be talking about is the textile and apparel sector. This is a very important sector because India is the largest producer of cotton in the world. India is the second largest uh, producer of cotton in the world, consumer of cotton in the world, and it is the second largest producer of cotton in the world. 23% of the world's cotton is produced in India. Again, one-fifth of the cotton what you see in the world, it comes from India. For what we saw earlier, 6.1 million tons of cotton which is produced per year. Now, what are the reasons for growth? Plenty of raw materials. Now, textile is basically derived from cotton. So there's abundance of raw material which is available. A complete value chain is in place in India. No other country in the world, let me tell you, no other country in the world has a complete value chain. Now, you might be seeing many countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, they are also striding greatly into the textile sector, but they don't have as much production of cotton as India has. So India has entire value chain, right from cotton to spinning, yarn, dyeing to final product. So the entire value chain is in place in India, and that makes India very superior and in a good position into the textile market. It includes the apparel as well as home textile market. Cost benefit because raw material is widely available and skilled manpower is available at a much lower cost than any of the other developed nations like the UK. For example, UK was one of the textile hub, the Manchester. But now, because of the rise in the manpower costing, a lot of industries have shifted to other countries. Rise in the technical textile. This is a new sector which has been booming all over the world, and India is the leader in this with increase in the medical textile, agro textiles, geotextiles, protective clothing are gaining large momentum in textile machinery. Now, India was net importer of textile machinery from China. All the yarn machines, the spinning machines, they were majorly imported from China. But because of the robust demand which has been seen for a couple of years, the domestic manufacturers of textile machineries have also started to make a place in the world and supplying to the domestic players in India as well. So now this was a brief about India, what I showed you across various sectors of India. And what are these some interesting facts? Now I'm sure people that are listening from India as well, they might not be knowing about such interesting facts about India, which are there. But these are some of the interesting facts. And this is a map about the major textile manufacturing players in India. And as you can see, the entire west region is majorly a textile producing hub with large number of companies operating out of the textile and the apparel market in India. Right. So this was about India and what are the various sectors in India, what are the opportunities which are there, what are the important, interesting facts and the reasons for growth. So basically, India is a net consumer market. So if you are an exporter, or if you are a company which are looking to have business in India, you're always welcome because it is always there as a receiver of products. And as you saw, that India is also holds a good position in the market in number of sectors. Now, I've only shown a couple of sectors over here and not a large spectrum of sectors, but India is also present in other sectors like minerals and mining, into the consumer goods, engineering products, engineering services, etc., etc. So these are some of the things. Now, I would encourage if any of you have questions on India, on international trade, or on me. Yeah. Sammy, you can, if you don't mind, you can prompt the questions to me from the Q&A box.
Yes, actually, we have some questions. The first question we have today is, what are the major African sectors that India wants to invest in?
Okay, so India is a very good market for diamond polishing, and diamond is one of the key commodities which is produced in Africa in a number of countries like Liberia, Ghana, Botswana, and these regions. So the Indian companies are looking towards investing into diamond mines, number one. Number two, India is much competent into the food processing industry, and Africa is also one of the country which is a good large producer of food products. But the processing is something which is not happening much in Africa. So Indian companies are looking to invest into the food processing sector of Africa as well. For example, into the kawasa, or pardon me if I spelled it wrong, or into the dairy industry.
Yes, our second question is, what are some of the disadvantages that Indian firms may face in Africa?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I didn't get it.
Yes. What are some of the disadvantages that Indian
Okay.
firms may face in Africa?
Okay, so some of the shortcomings which Indian firms have faced, and what has come to my notice, is that the process of getting the approvals in Africa are quite more in order to start a new business. Also, number two, in terms of the trade part, if we see now, if we supply products from India to some of the African countries, the shortcoming they have faced is the payment issue. So these are the two major issues which the Indian companies have been facing. But if we solve the number one problem, it is that shortening the entire legal and setting up process in Africa, or making it smooth for international companies to set up their operations in Africa, it will automatically solve the payment of the payment problem, because the system will be in place. So there will be less red taping and less corruption, and the things will be in a smoother way.
Yes, the third question today is, how is the legal business framework in India protecting investor rights and interests?
For what? For
How is the legal business framework in India protecting investor rights and interests?
for taxing investor.
Yeah, how is it protecting their rights and interests?
Okay, so the legal framework in India is very robust, because we have a multiple system which is in place, where companies which are coming from abroad to India, they are being monitored very closely. So the interest of the investor are taken care of by the center as well as the state. So the cartels which are there in India, or so-called domestic players which try to protect the market from the international people, the international company, they have been taken care by the foreign companies. A simple example: Uber came to India. Uber is an international brand, right? So India, before Uber came, did not have such a large taxi network, or there were domestic players in the market. But the government of India, the state governments, made sure that Uber has a smooth running business in India, because they are catering to the needs of the people, everyday needs of the people. So international companies are welcomed in India, and they are hugely protected in terms of legally, in terms of the manpower, legally as well, and also in terms of taxation.
That's excellent. Our next question is, who do you think will be India's main rivals in the African market besides China? And this is followed up with, do you think India can have a business war with China over Africa?
Basically, we do not believe in business war. We believe in cooperation, and we majorly believe in the quality of the products. So, apart from China, I don't think India has any competition in Africa as such. Of course, China has large investments into Africa, where India is lagging behind. So, if we take the example of West Africa, we say the Sierra Leone or Liberia, and those part of Africa, the west part of Africa, India does not have much of the business operations over there, and not lot many companies are operating there. So that is an opportunity for Indian companies to explore the western part of Africa, whereas the eastern side of Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, South Africa, and Mozambique, Ethiopia, all of these countries have been largely explored by Indians for about a decade or so, or more than a decade. But the western part is still unexplored, and western part of Africa is also very important for India in terms of trade as well as in terms of the investments, because as I mentioned, Liberia, Ghana, and some of the other countries are quite robust in production of some large natural resources along with diamond.
Our last three questions will begin
Yeah.
with, would India encourage African firms to invest in their country? And if so, are there any specific fields that India lacks?
So you mean African investors investing in India? Is that
Yes,
right? If I don't.
I think that's what he means. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, of course, we always encourage the African companies to invest in India, and we would ask the African companies to invest into the agricultural sector in India, because Africa is one of the country which has been very good in the agricultural sector, and they have been good knowledge about that particular sector. Also, many African countries I've seen recently has made some strides into the IT sector, and Indian IT sector is always welcoming. Now, you don't have to invest 100% and you take 50% and you go home. So the other way around is that an African company partners with an Indian IT company. They both share the profit. They grow into India, they grow into Africa, and they grow in the world. That is how business runs today. An African company investing in Indian company, or partnering with an Indian company, they can open an office in the Canada, or they can open an office in Europe, and they can do business. That is how business is growing beyond the boundaries.
Yes. Our second question of the three is, how has COVID-19 affected India's manufacturing sector?
So Indian manufacturing sector, to be honest, has been affected positively by COVID. The reason is that China had been under a long lockdown. Many of the international companies have shifted their contracts from China to India. Many of the international companies have also shifted their manufacturing base from China to India. One other incident which I would like to share over here: home textile sector in India. Home textile includes bed sheets, towels, and other textile materials which are used in home. Now, this particular sector in India was under a slowdown for past 6 to 7 years. Since COVID has hit the world, this particular sector has been in continuous production and into a very large boom. So initially, the home textile sector of India, I've worked with the home textile sector of India, so I know these figures. So they were initially working at 60 to 70% of their capacity. But after the COVID had hit the world, and people had shifted from China to India, a lot of manufacturing had been gained. So the companies, the home textile companies started to run at 100% of their capacity, right from 60% to 100% of their capacity. And still this is continuing.
Now,
So
Mr. Modi,
basically manufacturing sector, yeah.
the last question is directed to you. In the new digital era, the world is connected, and many investors can have access to the India market without investing directly in the country. How can that affect your economy?
So, yeah, there are many offshore companies which are also operating out of India. So, uh, they have access to India, but when you have an office in India or when you have invest in India, you get the real market pulse of India. Now, as I told you, India is a large country and it has 1.3 billion population. Now, me sitting in, for example, say Portugal, I can have the access to the Indian market through many internet applications or websites. But if I want to really gain the profit, I want to really have volumes of business in India. If I have just one office in India, yeah, that will suffice my that that will suffice my problem, because I will be sitting over here. My employee, he can move anywhere in the India because India is a free country. You can move from any state to any state, and he can know that okay, this state this requirement is there. This state this type of products are there. So you can customize your business when you have invested in India.
All right, that concludes our questions. In order to wrap up this event today, I would like to thank Mr. Modi for the very interesting talk, which in my opinion was very enlightening, and I'm sure will encourage a lot of youth workers who are in the business sector to help their countries prosper economically by trading with India. Once again, I will thank you for honoring us with your talk today, and I hope you all enjoyed the event. Moreover, I would also like to inform our audience that this event is recorded and will be posted on FAO's and the Social Science Lab's social media channels for all those who missed our event today. So feel free to ask any questions in the comment section, and we'll make sure to forward them to Mr. Modi so he can answer your questions. I hope all of you have a nice day or evening. And Mr. Modi, it was my pleasure hosting you today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, and wishing everyone a good health and stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
and
Mr. Sally.
goodbye.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice evening,
Goodbye.
Mr. Modi.